It's that time of week again. Welcome to the Ultimate Intimacy Podcast with Nick and Amy. And we're excited for our guest today. You've heard him on previous podcasts. Today, he is going to be answering one of the biggest questions that we often get from couples, which which causes a lot of disconnect in the relationship. So, Austin, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you
Excited.
back.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm ready to dive into these core struggles that so many people are hurting with, right? So,
Right. Hurting is the right word. Yeah, today we are talking about mismatched libidos, which is kind of like the number one question we get. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I forget the statistic, but what does it say? Like 90% of couples, you have a high desire spouse and a low desire spouse. And so if you are one of those couples, just know you're not alone. That pretty much every couple out there, there's going to be a higher desire and a lower desire spouse. But as Amy and I have talked about often, instead of using that as an excuse that, oh, we just, he wants it, she doesn't want it, you can still have a great intimate life. But it takes
If
it
you
takes the
find
things.
balance, yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's every couple I work with, we're working around sexuality. Even if they don't come in initially there because sex and intimacy is a part of the relationship, we're also always talking about emotional connection. And a lot of couples aren't aware of this, but we're also talking spiritual connection, even if they don't use that language. This, like, right, who am I and how do I relate to you, right? So, yeah, I'm ready to jump in if we have specific questions, or I can kind of go into the whole overall general struggle with that. I mean, wherever you guys want to go. So,
Why don't you lead us off with the question
Okay.
you kind of got? Because I think this
I
will.
I mean I have a list of questions in this, like pretty much in this area, a topic of marriage, because so many people struggle with it. So um yeah, I mean, we've gotten a lot of emails even in the past few weeks of different situations in marriage where, and remember, we know that it could go both ways. Sometimes the higher drive wife, sometimes there's a higher drive husband. Like, even if we say, the husband, like, it could go both ways. But I think the main issue is, and I'm just going to throw out a quick disclaimer on this podcast. This is not an episode where you want your kids in the room. We're going to ask some pretty hard questions because there are some situations that, people have asked. And I really want to be able to like dig into them, right? So, um, I'm just going to throw out a situation for you really quick, and then I think the questions will flow from there. You have a situation where a husband has a higher drive, the wife has a lower drive. And we talk about all the time, like, okay, it takes two in a marriage, it takes strong emotional connection first. A wife needs to feel loved. Okay, in this situation, I'm going to share the wife is very willing to be intimate and knows that that's a big part of the marriage, okay? But the husband, and this is where I want to talk about physical and emotional and psychological. Like, we know that a husband, it's a lot physical, right? Like there's that physical component of it. There's also where, thousands of husbands have said, I want it to be emotional. I want her to want it. I want her to desire it. Like it's not sexual intimacy unless she desires it. So in this situation, the wife's like, yeah, I think every 3 or 4 days is great. I think we could find this good balance. And then the husband's like, no, I need it every 2 days. Oh, I need it every day. And she's like, my libido's not there. Like that's not something that I want
yeah.
every single day. And the husband's like, well, wait a second. This is where it gets really tricky. And this is the kind of situation I want to talk about today is finding that healthy balance. Like how much is physical? How much is if a husband really wants his wife to want it and want to be intimate, you've got to find a balance there. Like you got to work with her, right?
Right.
Let's discuss that.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say there's so many theories to quote unquote healthy sexual intimacy. And one of the things I would start with is asking a couple, what is the goal of your relationship, right? And I would say most couples would say we want to feel connected and in love. If you look at sexuality as part of connection, and I would say one of the most powerful types of connection, we should also say it should last a little bit longer than, an 8 second orgasm, right? Like what we really want to look at, and from a therapeutic standpoint, we say there is no like libido in us. That's not a body part. We don't have a libido, right? So libido is connected very frequently to emotions that people aren't conscious of. Men have a physical drive at times really high, but so can women. And so being able to go, what part of me is in charge right now? Is it my physical body that I'm turned on? Is it I'm really in love with you and we're really connected? Is it I'm stressed out at work? Like being able to ask yourself, why do I feel the need to have sex so often is valuable. And then asking yourself, what is the purpose of sex? Is it so I don't feel stressed at work, or is it so me and my wife have a healthy, interaction? And this is truly where I see a lot of destruction in marriages, where my sexual desire as a partner trumps your need to fill, your needs, right? And so you get this kind of trade thing, which isn't a healthy marriage. I would suggest the goal, and this is what I would say the top sex therapist would suggest, is the goal of your sexual interactions is that both come out feeling loved. So if in this scenario, right, a man kind of talks his woman into sex every day, okay, she's going, I don't quote unquote need sex. I can come because I love you. Well, what's the equivalent for her? Because she's not leaving that experience feeling more loved. In fact, a lot of women say the fact that I need to be with you actually makes me feel less loved. This feels about sex, not loving me. And then you get this split. Does that make sense?
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
you're spot on.
Absolutely.
And so when I work with couples around this, and this is, I would say, let's call it advanced, I'm going to call it maturity. It's being able to say, okay, I'm not just my physical body and I'm not just my spirituality. In fact, my love for my spouse is higher than my sex drive. Now, you may not feel that way. That's where you consciously have to say, okay, what's more important? My wife's needs and what she needs to feel close, or me having an orgasm again, tomorrow, or this not just orgasm, but this interaction, right? And so I remember years ago, and this was me from a client standpoint. Okay, me and my wife went to a therapist, and he said, Austin, he said, love is like a piano keyboard. He said, love should be all these keys that you feel love. And he says, you only like the sex key, right? Like that's the only one, right? And he was accurate. Okay. His name was Jeff Ford, and he was straightforward with me. And so over time, I had to learn to like, yeah, I just want to have sex all the time, but I can enjoy that we're parenting together. I can enjoy that we're walking. I can enjoy these other aspects of connectedness that help me feel lovable and wanted. And it's not the only way for her to show me love is sex, sex, sex. And what can happen in this scenario that you described is it starts to feel manipulative, where it's like, well, if you love me, have sex with me. It's like, well, I love you and I had sex with you yesterday. This isn't about me not loving you. It's that I don't physiologically, I'm not ready for sex again. And so that's the danger, is that it becomes a divide, something meant to be expressed out of connection, becomes the divide, or couples are using it to get connected. I would say the healthy thing is to say, let's connect, emotionally, spiritually. Let's laugh together. Let's go on dates. Let's already have connection. And then when we're being sexual, it's an expression of what we already have,
Mhm.
where so many couples are like, we're disconnected. Let's go have sex. And then you
Right.
want your partner to be super high passion and desire. It's like, that's backwards.
Right.
I love that. That was
That's a
really good.
I love that analogy of the
Yeah.
piano. It's true. And
Like, look,
us women, we have different keys, right? Like we enjoy the romance or we enjoy the date nights or we feel loved in different ways. So that's what a great analogy. Okay, the next part is, and we've get a lot of like comments or questions about this, and everyone's going to feel different about this in their marriage, according to their beliefs, religion, whatever. It comes down to masturbation. Like a lot of women are like, just go take care of yourself if you want it that often, okay? And I mean, I know that's a whole nother topic because, like in our marriage, if I was to say that to him, that would become, okay, we'll just now go do that. And then all of a sudden, the time that we're together is going to get less and less because that can turn into like just a way to avoid it, correct?
Especially if a husband's afraid of getting denied, right? If
Right.
he's has that fear of being shut down, it's almost we've got a lot of husbands express that I don't even ask because I'm more fearful of being shut down. That hurts more than not even asking, right?
Yeah.
So, so when it comes to that, and that becomes a scary topic where you're like, just go take care of yourself because most husbands are like, I don't want to take care of myself. This is
Yeah.
an intimate thing. But a
Mhm.
wife can get to a point where she's just like, well, then you'll leave me alone, right? Like obviously there's something deeper going on there.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's where I would say, and this is right. I would say us humans, right? There's a part of us that is the physical body that it has its appetites and passions, and we're not really obviously in control of that. Like I tell clients all the time, like, did you wake up and choose to feel anxious? No. Like, who would, right? That's happening to you. Similar with like sex drive and desire. But then there's this part of us, let's call it our consciousness, where we can choose to override those feelings. So often the approach for people is like, I'm whatever my sexuality says, I just need to do that. So if I need sex, that's not about love making. That's not about bonding. That's about my body says it's time for another dopamine hit and another release. And so asking yourself, what is sexuality in our marriage? Is it about satisfying my physical appetites or is it about love? And I would suggest the higher value is we're having loving interactions, and I can learn to be in charge of my sexuality, where it's like, oh, okay, I have desire. I can manage that for a day or two or three or a week. And there is this thing, I hear it all the time, men and women buy it, where it's like, oh, this is what you need. I would suggest people don't quote unquote need sex to survive. I would say a healthy marriage needs sex in it. I would say a healthy intimacy needs loving connectedness. But when we adopt this idea of like sex is just to function in the world, now you're not focusing on a loving interaction. And so when it comes to the question of masturbation, and this is I mean, I don't remember how much backstory I gave in the past, but I mean, this is coming from a personal place of like my sexuality was high, high, high. Like my friends, high. Okay. I wanted the things that we're talking about, consistent, constant, whatever. But one of the things that was really helpful for me was to come to a place where I can't remember exactly who said it, one of my mentors, but they said when it comes to masturbation, a man cuts out the energy he can use to attract his wife towards him. And so if we look at that sexual desire as an energy, and it's like, hey, I want to make love to you and I want you to be engaged in it, right? I can say, well, you should come and be engaged, or I can do the things that attract my wife. I can listen and I can say, hey, what helps you feel attracted to me? What helps you feel, at ease where you're willing to go to the bedroom? And let me just add this small piece. If men and women understand female, like the female sexual response, very rarely do women just have sexual desire disconnected from some emotional interaction. When I see women that are the higher desire spouse, it's typically not about sex for them. They would say, I desire sex because in my head, that's where I can get the emotional connection. He's not available otherwise. So even a higher desire woman, typically, it's not sex. She wants the snuggle, she wants the closeness, right? I'm sure you've seen that, heard that. And so this is the piece that I would say around masturbation is like, okay, you want that release. Like I'm going to use the term like step up and do the work to attract her towards you. So she wants to show up and go to the bedroom, maybe not feeling desire yet, but she's willing to let you give her a massage. She's willing to, kiss a little bit and allow that desire and passion to, kind of awaken. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Perfectly said. Yeah.
Yeah, perfectly said. And I think too, we hear this so often, my wife just says all I want is sex. But if that were the case, every guy would just go masturbate and never bother their wife. But most men don't want to do that. And the reason why is because I think for most men, like you've hit on, sex, yeah, there's a physical component to it that your sex drive gives you that desire to want to do it. But for most husbands, they're like, that's the way I feel loved, right? I feel when my wife desires me sexually, I feel loved. I feel wanted. I feel needed. It helps their self-confidence, their self-worth, their desire. So I think, I just want to point out that I think too for men, it's not just about sex. Men want that emotional connection through sexual intimacy as well.
Most men,
Most
most
men.
good, loving husbands.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I would say it's a challenge because we can talk about this, but I would say there's a process of, I would call it development, where right we can say, hey, here's the way to, manage your libido or whatever. But like that's developing a skill, that's learning to have self-discipline, that's learning those conversations where you and your spouse know how does this work between us so we don't have this disconnect and this frustration in between, which so many couples are experiencing, right? Where okay, we make love, now we disconnect and fight about love making, and then we reconnect, right? Like that's
Mhm.
exhausting.
Mhm.
And so um as a sex therapist, one of the things I remember, one of my early professors, I think I was still in school, I must have been, but they said, anytime you're working with sexuality, like I'm talking like erectile dysfunction, like physical stuff, right? Premature ejaculation, they said, anytime you're working with sexuality, the resolve is emotional. Okay. It's not physical, it's not technique, it's not right. And so much of our sexual interactions are based on emotion. So if a man's avoiding feeling rejected, that's an emotion that he's trying to avoid, right? If a woman is pursuing sex, so she doesn't, have an angry husband, that's not an ideal reason to be sexual, is to avoid, anger or whatever. That's also emotionally based. And so with couples where there's this, high desire, low desire thing, the the place to resolve is in these emotional dialogues where it's like, what do you need at your core? Well, I want to feel lovable. Okay, you can feel lovable not just sexually. You can feel lovable in a ton of different ways. And truly, what I experienced on a personal level is me and my wife could be sexual, and I still didn't feel lovable. I might feel good while we're being sexual, but the minute we were done having sex, there was like a wound in me that it was like, well, I need that again, so I feel lovable again. And so I would encourage, if you're needing sex to help feel a void in you, individual work that like, um, I want to feel lovable.
Can you
Well,
you froze for a sec? Can you repeat that last sentence?
yeah, I would say if you, for example, like I want to be sexual so I feel lovable, I would say you can grow in a way where you can feel lovable in other ways, right? And so if my core like struggle is, hey, I'm not feeling lovable, I need to have sex with you so I feel lovable, I'll make this really small and simple. The alternative is I could say, hey, I'm feeling like I'm not lovable to you. Do you love me? And the spouse says, yeah, I love you. I'm really glad that we're married. Oh, let me accept that. Now I can make love to you because we like each other, not to fill this void of my lovability, right? There's a lot that can be said here and a lot that can be done here. But those libido things so often aren't about love. They're about the physical body or an emotional wound that we're trying to get resolved sexually, which doesn't resolve through sex. It's not a sexual issue. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, so what I'm hearing, and this is my question, you are a professional marriage therapist.
Mhm.
Do you agree that emotional intimacy such as love, kindness, respect, and loyalty should be prerequisites or should come first before sex can actually be intimate?
Yeah, for sure. I think when we're like, this is the research. So many couples are going to sex for physical, like pleasure, which is, that's a part of it. The other piece is I have emotional wounds that I want you to resolve for me through sex. I would say if you're going to have real intimacy, like true, like we're going to connect, we're already connecting emotionally, we're already connecting spiritually, I would say intellectually, conversationally, recreationally. There's a lot of intimacies.
Yeah.
When we're connecting that way, the natural process is I want to be sexual with you now. What's happening with a lot of people once they get into a significant relationship is they skip all that quote unquote courting, dating stuff. And it's like, hey, let's just have sex. Why don't you want to have sex? Let's have sex again. And all those other ways of intimacy that allowed that person to be attracted to you, to choose to be sexual with you, is it's all neglected. And so if the goal is ultimate intimacy, we need to expand from just, I'm going to be a little graphic here. Penis and vagina is that's something kids, young teenagers can do. That's not an expression of love. That's a physical act that's not complex. Real love is I'm bringing a part of me to you, you're bringing a part of you to me, and it's bigger than just that sexual act. So,
Yeah.
So much bigger, so much bigger. Okay, in this situation then, what is your best piece of advice for a wife saying, I don't want to reject you, but it's a little much.
right.
Like, could we make it to day 3 or 4 without hurting him? And how could a guy take that better so it's not feeling like a rejection? Like, what are your tips there?
Yeah, one quick thought. I remember working with a client and his wife around this subject, and he came into session and it was like he had this revelation. He's like, I get it. She's not rejecting me. She's rejecting sex. And he said, I'm not sex, right? And she said, yeah, I want to spend time with you. I like that we're doing life together. She's like, I don't need sex today. I still want to connect to you. And so if a guy in this scenario can say, okay, she doesn't want to do the sexual act today, but she still wants to spend time with me. She wants to hold hands with me. She wants to go to the grocery store. Like, she's not rejecting you because you're not sex. She's rejecting a sexual interaction. Keeping that front and center doesn't mean that your desire is not there. But this is where women in this scenario also feel like you're not trying to make love to me, you're trying to have sex. If you're trying to connect to me, I want to go on a walk with you and hold hands and talk about my day. And so I think there's more give, is the balance, and knowing like, okay, my partner, okay, I might have to wait 2, 3 days. I have an engaged spouse that wants to be intimate with me. Again, I'll speak personally. My wife used to say, like, yeah, we can have sex, but it's gonna be hard for me to be into it tonight. It's not that I don't love you, like, there's a lot going on. She would say, we can have sex tonight, or like tomorrow we can make love. You
Hmm.
choose. And I
Yep.
go, sometimes I'd say, oh, let's have a quickie, right? Other times I'd say, yeah, I want to wait and have a better interaction. Um, so I would suggest, and I'll keep this short, being able to see how your spouse loves you beyond the bedroom is really valuable. And being able to go, okay, I'm lovable. You told me that yesterday through sex. You told me that today through, the love note or the text. I need to hold that information internally and not constantly have to have it resolved. So hopefully that's helpful.
It's great.
Yeah, I
Great
think that's
advice.
great. So kind of hitting upon it, what is how do we find the right balance? Because you're gonna have some husbands that say, or some wives that say, once a month is good for me.
Mhm.
And you're gonna have some husbands that say, I don't expect every day, but a couple times a week would just be
Amazing. Yeah.
amazing. And it's the joke in our home, but Amy can tell day 3 by just kind of my personality and my attitude. And I don't do it intentionally, but I think we as men,
Not a bad attitude, just
not a
the
bad,
touchy-feely, starts doing more on the house, like,
or I think we as men naturally, like when the sexual energy or connection isn't there, we tend to get a little more grumpy, or we tend to, you know what I mean? And I don't think we do it intentionally, but how do couples really find that balance? And it might not be ideal for the wife, it might not be ideal for the
Mhm.
husband. It,
Right.
it, it might not be the perfect situation for each, but it can be something that, you know what, I can live with this, or I can live with this, that both couples, even if it's not perfect, they both can say, you know what, this is a good balance. It's not perfect, but we can both live with this, right?
Yeah. The research of marriage in the past, I won't go deep with this, but the assumption behind especially marriage was choosing to love each other. It's not compelled upon you. And so, right, if people approach their relationship in a selfless way where I'm here because I love you and I want to give to you, and both people are trusting that that's where the other's operating from, right? Then it becomes an easier conversation because it's not a I gotta go get. And so the scenario you gave, Nick, of like a once a month type of thing, if a wife is coming from like, okay, my need is or my desire is once a month, but I love you, I can go, a couple times a week, not in a trade way, but like if this is happening, I think I can get myself there to have a really good interaction. Again, I don't need sex, but our marriage might need sex for us to stay connected. It
Yeah.
also might need, and I do see this a lot where other non-sexual needs are not being met. So if a husband can say, okay, I'm also here to give, you're coming from once a month to, once a week or twice a week or whatever, what can I do to show you love? And she might say, I just really need some help with the kids, or I really need help balancing this thing. I see this mismatch a lot where we focus on sex and someone's saying, I'm not getting enough sex, and the other person starts to give to get closer while they're also not getting their needs met that are
Yeah,
non-sexual.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say, as a couple, if you want to have a happy marriage, you both adopt a give, selfless attitude, and you find ways to really incorporate that into your marriage where you both feel the other person, maybe even sacrificing sometimes, not at the expense of the other. That's not healthy. But like, I'm willing to do this because I love you. That is where I think couples have the most success.
I love that you shared the story about your wife and you say sometimes or she would say, tonight it's gonna be physical, and the next night, if you can wait another day, then I can give you like a real making love kind of experience. And because that happens in our marriage, some nights I'm just like, this is what you're gonna get tonight, and I'm not gonna be into it. And tomorrow night, if you can give me another day, it's gonna be amazing. And being the amazing husband that he is like, of course I'm gonna wait. I want you to enjoy it, right? And I hope that if you're a husband, listen to this, like listen to your wife, learn how to feel your wife, learn how to give her that safety that she can be like, I'm not up to it tonight, but tomorrow night is going to be a different experience, and I'm willing to get into a positive mindset about tomorrow night, and that you're okay with that, and that you don't walk around like, like for me, like that builds a lot of intimacy right there when you're like, I can wait for you to be there. That's important. And we always talk about there are lots of nights, and you know that we're always like, hey, vibes, like, or lower drive, just whatever it looks like. It's really important to be intimate. That's what keeps your marriage passionate. Like once a month is probably not going to keep you having a passionate, romantic, amazing marriage that you both want, right? So in our marriage, we found like I have a super low drive. Like I don't need it. It's not a need at all for me. But I've learned like I love him. His needs are important to me too. So what have I found that helps me get in the mood? The back rubs. He's willing to do these things. Husbands, if you can figure out what makes her feel good, what takes that mental load off so she can feel the physical pleasure. You can turn it more. I'm gonna make you feel amazing tonight and let some of that stress out. Like when you can change your attitude, both the husband and the wife, like, okay, this is for both of us, it's for our marriage, not because he needs to get off or whatever. And the husband's like, I want her to want it, like you said, how do I make her fall in love with me again? Like what kind of emotional things am I doing? Am I willing to go on a walk and hold her hand and be that guy that she fell in love with? I think that's where that balance is found.
Well, and you hit on this as well too. If you're a wife out there, I think rather than just telling your husband no, and again, we're talking about trying to find that balance.
Healthy balance, right?
Yeah, like, no man should expect his wife to make love to him every day. Like to me, that's just not good, unless you both want to do that, of
Right.
course. But that's just not very realistic in raising kids and having families and things like that. But if you're a wife out there, instead of saying, no, I don't want to, sweetie, just like Amy said, maybe approach it and say, you know what? You're not, just like Austin said, as his wife, you know what? Tonight is just going to be about sex. But if you want to wait till tomorrow or Thursday, I can be all into it with you. And so it's not just a rejection thing, but it's like, you know what? I'm not into it today, but tomorrow I will be, right? And I think also how we discuss or approach the topic of sex and rejection or finding that balance. It's also how we approach it and
Absolutely.
deal with that. So
Absolutely.
Well said. I'll just along those lines, I was just thinking of an interaction I had with a couple, and um, things can get extreme where it's like to feel lovable. I remember this was early in my career. Someone like to feel lovable, I need sex 7 times a day. I was like, what? What? Like,
what?
why seven? Why not five? Right? Why not three? Right? It was this abstract. And when we dissect that out, there's a trauma component, and a lot of people have trauma playing into their relationships and their sexuality. And I do believe that a healthy marriage is one where we say, okay, we're transcending the imperfect parts of us and we're focusing on love and selflessness. I think expectations, especially around sex, um, are dangerous because it's now no longer about your spouse and your interaction. It's an expectation of what I should get from you and this kind of you owe me thing. And I don't think that's love. I don't think that's healthy intimacy. Whenever someone feels obligated, you're not going to have passion. You just like you're not. And so, I'll end my part with this. Esther Perel did some really important research around sexuality where she asked couples, she researched and found couples that both said we have passion for each other, not just sexual passion, but also sexual passion. We really like our relationship. The data on that is fascinating because these couples described a whole bunch of different types of relationships, different types of sexuality, but she found that there was one core component that all the couples had that allowed them to feel like we love this marriage. And that one core piece is they chose it every day.
Mhm.
Didn't happen to them. It wasn't happenstance. They learned this is what helps us both really like this. And it's not a give take, it's a give give, right? I'm pouring into this because I love you and I can adjust some of me to meet there for you while you're doing the same. And I think that's beautiful to see that it's a give give.
I
Yeah.
love that. That's beautiful.
Well, I think this was one of the
Yep.
really good podcasts. I think that explained a lot, and I hopefully
Mhm.
answered a lot of questions. I felt like
Probably
it
needs
was
a part two and a
really good
part three 'cause there's
podcast.
a lot to talk about, but we'll end it there.
So thank you so much for being on with us,
Yeah, of
Austin.
course.
Appreciate it. And hopefully the audience is going to hear a lot more from Austin periodically. Love having you on the podcast. You have so much wisdom and just thanks again for joining us.
Welcome. Good to see you. Talk to you
All
later.
right.
Thank you.
Well, until next time, we hope all of you find ultimate intimacy in your relationship.